to see them all. You stopped in front of every cage and stood there without moving, looking distracted and indifferent, while the dogs flung themselves against the wire mesh and barked and jumped around and tried to tear the links apart with their paws. The woman who ran the place was with us. She thought you were an ordinary little girl, so she kept on trying to interest you in the best-looking dogs. "Look at that Cocker Spaniel," she would say, or "How do you like that collie?" The only reply you gave was a sort of grunt, and you continued on without listening to her. On the third day of this ordeal, we came upon Buck. He was in the back in one of the pens where they kept the convalescing dogs. When we got there, instead of running to greet us with all the others, he remained sitting where he was, not even raising his head. "That one!" you cried, pointing at him. "I want that dog." Do you remember the astonished look on the woman's face? She just couldn't understand how you could want to own that pitiful mongrel. Of course she couldn't. Buck looked as though every canine race in the world had gone into the making of his little body, with his wolf's head, his soft, droopy hunting dog's ears, his long dachshund's paws, his fluffy Pomeranian's tail, his black and red Doberman's coat. When we went into the office to sign the papers, the girl who worked there told us his story. Someone had thrown him out of a moving car at the beginning of the summer. He'd been so severely hurt that one of his hind legs hung down useless. Buck's right here by my side. Every now and then, while I write, he sighs and touches my leg with the tip of his nose. His muzzle and ears have become almost white, and for some time now he's had that film over his eyes that all old dogs get. It touches me to look at him. It's as though a part of you were here beside me, the part I love the most, the part that considered 200 dogs in that shelter so many years ago and then picked out the saddest, ugliest one of all. In my solitary wanderings around the house during these past months, the years of misunderstanding and bad feeling when we lived together have disappeared. The memories that surround me are memories of you as a child, so ingenuous and vulnerable and confused. It's her I'm writing to that child, not to the arrogant, defensive person of later years. The rose gave me the idea. When I walked past it this morning, it seemed to say, "Take out some paper and write her a letter." I know that one of the agreements we made when you left was that we wouldn't write, and I'm sticking to it, but reluctantly. These lines will never make their way to you in America. If I'm not here when you come back, they'll be here waiting for you. Why do I say this? Because less than a month ago, for the first time in my life, I was seriously ill. And so now I know that among all the other possibilities, there's also this one. That in 6 or 7 months I may not be here anymore to open the door for you and put my arms around you. Some time ago, a friend was telling me that when sickness comes to people who've always been healthy, it strikes them suddenly and violently. That's just what happened to me. One morning while I was watering the rose, someone suddenly turned off the lights. If Mrs. Rasman hadn't seen me through the fence between our gardens, you'd almost certainly be an orphan right now. Orphan? Is that what you call someone whose grandmother has died? I'm not really sure. Maybe grandparents aren't considered important enough to require a special term for being without them. You don't become an orphan or a widow when you lose your grandparents. It seems natural for them to get left along the way, absent-mindedly, like forgotten umbrellas. When I woke up in the hospital, I didn't remember anything at all. While my eyes were still closed, I had the feeling I'd grown 2 long, thin whiskers like a cat's. But as soon as I opened them, I realized there were 2 little plastic